We are in the process of shooting our video on Uradashi, and I have a plane blade that I've just discovered is 22 degrees, which I think is a bit too delicate to hit. So I want to stand this plane blade up to a higher bevel angle. Many Japanese plane blades float around the 27 degree bevel angle, maybe 28 or 26. To go from 22 to any of those very quickly can be quite tricky. So for this one, I want to take it to 25. So that's still a big step of 3 degrees or so. To do this can be a bit of a trial trying to do it freehand. Jigs are a great way to nail an angle on an initial sharpening and then allow yourself to maintain that angle with freehand sharpening. So we have a little weapon in the shop that is called the Grintec K2. The Grintec is a jig designed specifically for sharpening Japanese plane blades. It won't do anything else. No chisels, no Western plane blades, no knives, just Japanese plane blades. And there are a few tricks to getting it how you want it to be. And because the instructions that come with it are in Japanese, I thought I'd run you through a few of the things to get it working. So the most important part of the Grintec is this, which comes in the box with it. This is a ruler and an angle guide. The interesting thing about this is that it measures the bevel angle off the top of the plane blade, not off the back with the hollow ground. These indicating ears around the circumference give you different angles for your bevel. So if you can match your bevel to one of these angles, you know that it's going to be about that. So I can see that I've taken this to a wheel, and I can see that the new bevel angle that I've put on it is 24, or even lower, 23. This only goes as low as 24, up to 28. So I know that I want to get it to 25. So I'm going to use the jig to set it to 25. The other important measurements to take of your plane blade and able to fit it to your jig properly is the measurement across the blade at the back. This blade is going to sit in the jig with a single top clamp screw, and there is a sliding stop that allows you to set it to the width of your plane blade. So we want to measure our plane blade at its widest point, which is 67 millimeters. And we want to measure the length of our plane blade from the very rear to the back of the bevel. We are not trying to hit the front of the bevel, the cutting edge, we're trying to hit the back of the bevel. And that's really interesting because that means we can dial in the degrees that we want to hit for the length of our blade to the back of the bevel. We don't need to worry about any movement or change in degree that comes from sharpening a lot from the front. So we reference this on the back and I can see that we're hitting 98. So my blade is 67 wide at the widest point and 98 long. I'm going to set this side arm of the jig to 67. It has markings at 60, 65 and 70, so I'm going to slot it halfway between 65 and 70 and lock off my side arm. And before I pop my blade in the jig, I'm going to set up my wheel fairly close to where I want it to be. The placement of the wheel is what changes the angle of the jig, and the wheel moves as well as the backstop that positions your plane blade. So as you move your plane blade forward and back, you can then move your wheel forward and back to give you more adjustability. So we have his markings on the backstop and markings on the wheel axle. I want 25 degrees, which has a marking here, and my plane blade is 98 millimeters long, so I want to line up 98 millimeters and 25 degrees, which is there. Those two lines are lining up. I'm going to lock off the screw for the backstop. I'm going to lock off the screw for the wheel. And I also have, during this process, this knob on the back, which gives me a level of fine adjustability forward and back on the wheel. So I'm going to make sure that I've hit what I think is 98. We're marked at 95 and 100. So with that all set up, I'm going to slot my blade into the jig, tighten up my screw, and I am just going to make sure that I feel that it's seating nice and square. Might need a little twist out there. Done. So I can now hold my Japanese plane blade at a very specific angle and work it all the way through my sharpening stones. So if you have a Japanese plane blade that you want to drastically change the angle of, or put a lot of work into to remove some chips, the Grintec is a really handy tool for the job. Very specific, however quite specialised, and so good at what it does. Enjoy woodworking.